You can feel it everywhere these days. You see it online, you hear it in the news, maybe you even notice it in conversations with friends. There's this huge fault line running through our society, and it's all centered around gender. It's really redrawing the map of how we all relate to each other.
And that gets us to the big question we're tackling in this explainer. Is this giant divide a direct reaction to the growing visibility of the transgender community? Are these two things connected? It's a really charged topic for sure, so let's dig in and see what the sources have to say.
Okay, so first things first, we have to understand a key term you'll hear a lot, the manosphere. So what is it? Well, the sources describe it as this huge, sprawling network of online places, blogs, forums, social media, that are often connected by some pretty strong anti-feminist and misogynistic ideas. A really common belief you'll find there is that men are the ones who are actually the victims in modern society. This is a super important piece of the puzzle, so keep it in mind.
All right, let's look at the first major argument. This one suggests that the increasing visibility of trans people has become a real flashpoint because it challenges some very, very old ideas about who we are. Think about it. At its heart, the very existence of transgender people pushes back against the simple, traditional idea that gender is just male or female and that it's tied strictly to the sex you were assigned at birth. It introduces this idea that gender might be more of a spectrum and that it's separate from biology. Now, for a lot of people, that's an incredibly freeing concept, but for others, it feels like a threat to something fundamental.
And this is where you see the reactions just split wide open. On one side, you have the manosphere. The response there is pretty much hostile. They see trans visibility as a direct attack on what they consider traditional masculinity. On the other side, within feminist circles, well, it's a lot more complicated. It's really divided. You've got some feminists who fully embrace inclusivity, but you have others who have some serious what they call gender-critical concerns.
And this quote right here, it really gets to the core of that split. This viewpoint, the gender-critical one, basically argues that sex is a biological reality. The concern is that if gender becomes all about how you self-identify, it could weaken the very concept of woman as a distinct group, which could then undermine protections that were built around that category. It's a debate that has caused a massive rift inside the feminist movement.
But what if that's not the whole story? Let's switch gears and look at the counter-argument. This idea suggests that, actually, the gender divide was already there, and that trans issues just became the new, shiny battleground for a fight that was already happening.
If you look at this timeline, you can see the manosphere didn't just pop up yesterday. Its roots go way back, grounded in a backlash against feminism and changing gender roles that was bubbling up long before trans visibility was a mainstream topic. I mean, you see groups like men's rights activists were around and active well before the current debate really blew up.
And that gets to the real why behind it. The sources are pretty clear that the engine driving the manosphere isn't just a reaction to trans issues. It's a much broader backlash against the whole idea of gender equality and this feeling that traditional male dominance is slipping away. So from this perspective, the fight over trans rights isn't the thing that started the fire, it's just more fuel being thrown on it.
And this isn't just some fringe thing happening in weird corners of the internet. When you look at the actual data, you see this huge political divide. Pew Research found that Democrats are way more likely to believe a person's gender can be different from their sex at birth. Republicans? Not so much. It just goes to show how deeply this issue is tangled up in the bigger political culture wars.
So where does all this leave us? Is trans visibility the cause of the divide, or is it just a symptom of this bigger backlash? Well, what the sources suggest is that the reality is way more complicated than that. We're not really looking at an either-or situation. Instead of a simple cause and effect, what the sources point to is a really powerful intersection of different trends, all getting supercharged by the way we talk to each other today.
Yeah, instead of A causing B, it's much more like a feedback loop.
Think of it like this. The backlash that was already there and the new flashpoint of trans visibility, they aren't separate things. They actually feed into each other, creating this cycle that just makes the division deeper and deeper.
So here's how that loop works. Step 1, you start with those anxieties that were already there about feminism and changing gender roles. Step 2, then increased trans visibility hits the scene, and it directly challenges that old school gender binary. Step 3,
This gives all that existing hostility a new, intense target to focus on. Step 4, and this part is so important, social media algorithms and our online echo chambers amplify the most extreme polarizing stuff. And finally, step 5. The result of all that is the gender divide gets even deeper.
And this quote just nails it. This is the key thing to take away from the sources. It's not the existence of the trans community that's fueling the division. It is the reaction to these changing ideas about gender, a reaction that gets magnified and shot around the world by our digital platforms that's really pouring gasoline on the fire.
So after looking at all this from different angles, what can we really say about this messy, unsettled landscape of the modern gender divide?
Okay, let's wrap this up. What have we learned? Well, first, it's clear that trans visibility has become a huge point of contention because it challenges those traditional gender norms. But second, this gender divide has much deeper roots in a long-running backlash against feminism. And third, this is the crucial part, these two things are now stuck in a feedback loop, made way more intense by the online echo chambers we all live in, which leads us to the biggest takeaway. There's no one single cause here. This is a tangled, complicated issue with no easy answers at all.
And that leaves us with one last really challenging question to chew on. As our digital tribes get stronger and more walled off from each other, is it even possible to find any common ground on something as personal and fundamental as identity? In this world that feels more and more fractured, what does it even mean to be you? That's definitely something to think about.